Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Lev Natan, and I have the privilege today to be with Arin Maya. Uh, really excited to be having this conversation today. Um, we know each other uh, from a sound and music training at the Open Center in New York City that we went on a journey as part of a cohort for 10 months. Once a month, we spent the weekend together with amazing teachers of sound and music. It's one of the aspects of the work that I do. And it was a journey together. And that was back in 2013. So it's like 2012, 2013. So it's like 8 years ago. And I still remember your final presentation. Actually, it had an impact on me. Just feeling the lineage of Bobby McFerrin, who's become more and more one of my go-tos, especially for morning time. Good positive energy. So just felt that and have been on your newsletter pretty much ever since, and just watched you grow as a human being, a bright spirit in the world, and a professional musician. So I'm so grateful. It's been maybe 6 to 12 months since I've been getting your newsletters and being like, you know what? I need to have, I'd like to have her on for an interview. And it just like, oh, it just kept getting the emails, and then, oh, I forgot to write it. And then I received, Dancing a Red Line, your music video right around the election day. It was maybe the day before or the day after, and it was just such an intense time. I remember I was lying down, taking a nap, and I woke up and I was just kind of on my phone looking at emails, and I clicked on it, started watching it, and it got me up out of bed after the nap. I was like, whoa, what is this? This is next level.
Oh, wow.
So then I just had to reach out right then and there. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad that we've been able to reconnect after all of this time. Yeah, I mean, the program that we met in had such a profound impact on me as well. And I think on many of us who were there. And I'm so grateful for the time that's been downtime during quarantine
Mm,
because it allowed me to really start activating some of the things that I've been unwittingly waiting to share, you know?
mm.
And so I'm excited to talk about some of that this morning. And I'm so glad that Dancing a Red Line got you out of bed that morning.
That's the point. I
um,
think it seems like.
yeah, yeah, for sure. The first line says, get up on your feet and change what you see."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna play a clip in a little while, but I wanted just to start. Um, you know, we had that history of 8 years and the sound and music, and then Dancing a Red Line really showed me your political consciousness and your capacity to uh, integrate and use sound to express important ideas that we all need to hear. So, just curious if you want to start by sharing, the maybe two or three different streams of lineage, so to speak, in your life that have kind of, in a sense, culminated in this,
Hmm.
masterful video and single that you're sharing, this musical
Thank you.
expression.
Thank you for that question. So it's interesting um, in the way that you say it, like lineage, right? Um, I there's so many things that kind of come to mind when in this question. Um, I grew up. I don't want to use the word confined, but that's what's coming to mind right now. Confined to the breadth of music that was in my parents' musical collection, which was wonderful. We listened to Paul Simon's Graceland a lot. Sweet Honey in the Rock was in there. Bobby McFerrin for sure. Medicine Man, which was one. It's just still to this day one of my favorite albums. Um, and then there was like Pharoah Saunders, just a lot of really uplifting music. I grew up in a very Afrocentric community, so I've always had a very strong identity and strong connection to self and um, in my African lineage, even though that was stolen from Black and Brown people in America who were brought here during the slave trade. But with that knowledge of self, I know that there is something greater than what we experience here for us. I know that um, what we see is not all there is. And so I'm constantly wanting us to access more. And I'm constantly trying to put, not Easter eggs or anything, but, trying to put messages in my music that remind us collectively of our greatness and of our ability to access more and be more, you know. Um, One of the things that came to mind when I was hearing you ask the question is a conversation I had with a good friend of mine. Her name is Akua Naru. And I actually met her the year we finished the program in 2013 because later that year I traveled to Europe to do a kind of dance performance fashion show thing, and I stayed for a few months. And so I met her in Cologne, Germany, and she's actually from the States. And she's an MC, hip hop artist, and we were talking about music and talking about what's needed in music, what kind of songs are needed. That there are a lot of love songs, there will always be love songs, and then there'll always be songs about pain and sadness. But what's really needed is music that addresses the world that we're in, that addresses the issues that we deal with, and that speaks to those issues in a way that offers a different perspective, you know.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that I want so much, um, both for personal and not so personal reasons, is I love inspiring people. I love empowering people. I do not like being told no. I do not like being told no. It is one
Hmm.
of my least favorite things. I'm like, oh,
What
I
does
want
that
you.
mean exactly?
I. It might mean that I'm spoiled, or it might mean that I know that what I want is possible, and I truly
Hmm.
believe that
Hmm.
what I want is possible. And I come from a people who've been told no for so
Hmm.
long,
Hmm.
or who've been blocked from opportunities for so long. The reason Dancing a Red Line is called Dancing a Red Line, the reason the term red line is in there is in part
Hmm.
because I'm from Chicago, and redlining
Hmm.
was a huge issue in Chicago,
Hmm.
keeping Black and
Hmm.
brown people from living in certain neighborhoods, from being able
Yeah.
to purchase a home to increase the wealth in their family, to create lines of wealth and legacies where their children wouldn't have to struggle anymore. And so um
Yeah, you're giving me chills with that. And for those that don't know, don't have that historical context, just a word about what you know, the realness of that racist practice.
yeah, I mean, and you can Google it, and it still happens. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
um
Boston, everywhere.
everywhere. I used to work at a nonprofit in New York, called, well, I worked at two, but the one that I worked at first was the Brennan Center for Justice. And there was a girl who I worked with there who told me about this experience that she had. She was trying to move into maybe a loft in Williamsburg, and she went to see the space. And I think that the realtor was, or the owner of the building was like Italian, and he was like, "Yeah, no, you can't live here." And it was just that simple. Like, he wouldn't rent to her because she was Black. And it's like, what? And it's interesting because with everything that's been happening lately, right? And we wish that we couldn't say lately. We wish we could say, with the things that happened in the 60s, and the horrible things that happened in the 50s, but no, it's like this is today. And so um
Yeah,
there's
like last week,
last
right?
week. And
Mhm.
also, like, with the terror of something else happening in the next day or two or any minute,
Mhm. Mhm.
um and the fear of that whether we acknowledge it or not is around us. and that energy, um, and I mean, one of the things that I have always done that I try to hold on to as much as I can is just holding on to and seeking out the joy and being grateful for something in the midst of it all, right? Because there's always something to be grateful for, and there's always joy, but it's all and it's not always a battle, it's not always a struggle, but it's there, and maybe it's not there in me, but it's like if I get on the phone with somebody and they're worried about their son going outside because there's this threat of them being attacked by white supremacists who are just out
Mhm.
and feeling empowered right now, um it's a lot. But so with these things that are happening, there are still people who don't know, who have no idea that racism is really a thing, that there are people who are impacted by people who don't want anything to do with people just because of their skin color,
Mhm.
and the stereotypes that have been propagated because of that,
Mhm.
so
And then the systemic, reality, the structures that, are invisible. So much energy is put into making them invisible that people don't see them.
exactly. And then we forget that America, in and of itself, is a system that was built for and on oppression. You know,
Mhm.
I forgot. Oh, I just finished reading Trevor Noah's Born a Crime, and
Mm.
that book is so good. It puts so many things into context, and it talks about the difference between the treatment of the Holocaust
Mm.
and the treatment of apartheid and slavery in America,
Mm.
and how the difference is in the Holocaust, they have records, right? There are pictures and records of the horrible things that were done, and there are records of the number of people that were killed and executed, and exterminated. But there aren't records of how many people were killed and maimed during slavery, or the number of people who were just completely obliterated during apartheid. There aren't records. And so the governments say, yeah, that happened. It was bad. Move on. So
Mm.
they address it as there was slavery and then there was Martin Luther King and now here we are.
Mm.
And it's like that's not true.
Mhm.
And so the idea that there's a generational psychological trauma that exists in people today as a result of the crimes that happened then is so foreign to people,
Mhm.
and people refuse to accept that that's a thing. But there are people who are like, oh, yeah, my great grandmother was a victim of the Holocaust. And they're like, oh, that's so horrible,
Mhm.
And so the difference in the way that that's treated, in the conversations that are had, in the compassion that's held for these communities, and the
Mhm.
way that people manage their own feelings about them, and the way that they treat or mistreat people, and the way that they allow themselves to feel okay about that.
Mhm.
Um, it's a doozy, but in the midst of it, we're still
Mm.
out here creating art and trying to speak to the issues.
Mm. Yeah, so much going on in my mind, and actually, what's coming to me actually is a metaphor that I'm just thinking of right now. That's what great conversations do, right? Give us insights. Is what I'm feeling like is that racism in America is kind of like Lyme's disease. I've struggled with it in my own body, so
Mm,
that's what I'm thinking of. Which is very tricky. It's very deceptive, and it's sticky, and it's not one thing. It's like it could show up like this. It could show up like that.
yeah.
It could go. It could seem like it goes away for a little while, and then boop.
Yep.
Oh,
Pop
I
right
got a
back in.
feet, right? So and then I was thinking about an interview with Ta-Nehisi Coates, that I listened to probably 2 or 3 years ago, and he said, "Look, we've had racism in this country for 400 or 500 years. It's not gonna, we're not gonna just like, okay, let's sweep that up and clean it up in even a generation.
Yeah,
It's gonna be 400 or 500 years
yeah.
of going to work and putting our stake in the ground to say no, that's not gonna cut it. So this is where we are right now. We're at this, like, my wife says, it's like the pimple has popped. It's out in the open, right? That we have a lineage that's still alive and well of the Ku Klux Klan. Like, it's what's true. It's what's true, and so we're just going to speak that, and all those groups that were demonstrating and creating bloodshed in Washington D.C. last week, just to date ourselves
Right.
right now.
Right.
Um,
2021. This is happening. It's real.
yeah, 2021. The transition of into a new presidency. Um, so so all that to say, right? This is a fight, or a walk. I like to say that requires lifelong commitment. For certainly, that's what I've learned is, for Black people, there's no choice. For brown people, there's no choice. And so for white people, I'd like to invite us to say there's no choice also, if we want to all be free, if we want to be conscious human beings. So what I really felt so included and mobilized by in Dancing a Red Line is that you're presencing the reality just in the first 10 seconds with that boom, 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 all these images, the history, the symbolism that's uh, gives me chills. And then you point us in a direction that we can all move together. So that's really something. It's really beautiful and powerful.
Thank you. I had a so the video was certainly a labor of love, and it's interesting because obviously 2020 was the year that coronavirus became the thing
Yeah.
of our lives, and so I had dreams of so many things. I have an album that I'm working on that I knew in the beginning of 2020. As a matter of fact, at the end of 2019, because so I did a crowdfunding campaign at the end of 2018, and I actually have to send a message to the people who contributed to it, because in so I got it. It was at the end of 2018, and then 2019, I committed to writing the album, right? And so when I first went into doing the crowdfunding, in my mind, I was like, I know this album. I already know what songs are going to be on it. It's fine. I just, and that's like the lofted artist. It's like, yeah, we know everything. We know the whole process, and then you kind of get into actually stepping into the pot, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, that's no, gotta, reconfigure some things. And so I committed to A, not rushing the process, and B, really making sure that I was coming up with a theme and songs that spoke to that theme, you know, that felt very important to me and felt um, not only on brand with kind of who I am as a person, but also what I wanted to communicate in this chapter of my art career, right? Of my artistry. Um, it's gonna be my second full length album. And I thought I was going to record it last year because I was like, okay, I spent 2019 writing. I didn't rush it. I like listened to songs and then I rewrote some lyrics and I did this and I did that. And then I went to a songwriters event and then I let some people hear that and da 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 da. And then 2020 came and it was like, and now you're gonna just sit down and not record, And I did put a couple of pieces of music out last year, obviously including Dancing a Red Line. But my goal with the process, because I did get some funds in the crowdfunding, I was like, great, I'm gonna go to the studio. I have the studio in mind, and I'm gonna call the musicians, and we're gonna go in for this many days with these songs that we'll have been able to talk through, and like we'll go to, we have a home studio in Brooklyn. And so we'll be there first and kind of like really vibing with it. And then we'll go to the studio after we prepared and really be useful with the time and none of that. And so um, I'm still readjusting my plan because I'm still slightly mourning the impossibility of really safely being in a studio space
mm,
and recording the album the way I wanted to.
mm,
But Dancing a Red Line in particular, it's interesting because my whole thing, there are a couple of songs. I have a few very, very clear video ideas for some of the songs. And it's funny because I think you and I are both 80s babies. And when I was growing up, then we did not have cable in my house. Like it was not a thing. And
mhm,
so I didn't have access to any music videos. So I
mm,
didn't grow up, even though that was like the boom of music videos, I didn't grow up watching music videos. It just wasn't part of my childhood. I knew they existed, you know, but you could ask me about any song and like, oh, don't you remember that video? And it's like, I don't. I didn't see it. I'm sorry, you know. And so the idea of a music video, while I know it's important as an artist to create visual content, it hits me in a slightly different way because I just didn't grow up with that being part of. So when I'm talking about listening to Bobby McFerrin and Desiree and Ella Fitzgerald, and granted, like these people probably didn't have music videos, but nevertheless, I was listening to music for the music, and I was just I was doing my homework in the basement, doing my homework, taking notes, and listening to the music, listening to the radio, pressing record, doing all that, you know. But there was no element of I have to finish my homework so that I can watch music videos. And so
mm,
in creating music videos, my perspective is just a lot different because I'm not coming from this kind of realm of understanding where I've seen a lot and had a lot to think about with regard to how to visually represent music, you know. Um, but I did grow up dancing. I grew up doing West African dance and other types of dance like in my church and ballet in high school. And I knew that dancing a red line dancing, of course, had to have a dance element. And so I know a lot of people who are dancers. I have a lot of friends who are dancers, professional dancers, and I really wanted to include them. Now, my original idea was I'm just gonna go to Chicago and shoot this part of the music video, and I'm gonna have somebody choreograph it, and then we're all gonna get together and do this choreography, and it's gonna be amazing. Quarantine said, no, you will not. That is not happening. We're not doing that, you know? And so I had to think of a way to make it happen that would be up to par from my standard of excellence, but also be possible with the resources that were available. And I'm a member of the Resistance Revival Chorus, which is a women's chorus based out of New York that was established right after the Women's March in 2017, after you know who got into office and things were being protested and people were organizing. And we put out our first album this past year. It's called This Joy. And we put it out kind of right around the same time as Dancing a Red Line came out, kind of right in time for the election season to uplift hope and joy and all of that. And so we had done a few videos from our homes, self taping and, you know, getting it edited in the right way. And so it gave me some ideas of how I could do a video that maybe wasn't exactly what I had originally planned on, but that still kind of like had the energy and the community and the collaboration happening in it. And so, and then I was really grateful for the dancers that were in it who were all willing to self tape. And I was like, if you do it on this setting on your phone in HD, then it'll be perfect. And like there were a couple of people who didn't quite do it right, but I was able to work with some editors who were like on point and
mm,
who really gave me exactly what I was looking for
mm,
and to be honest, like went above and beyond. And I was so grateful for that.
mm,
Um, there were a lot of videos, like a
mm,
lot of assets. And the thing is, I'm not an editor, so I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I have about like 24 people with three different versions of videos, and then I have, you know, and they're having to sort through all of this
mm.
content and
Wow.
create what you saw. And so I'm really grateful for the work that went into it and the product that came out of it.
Yeah. Well, let's take a pause here and bring up a screen share and just take a quick look. And for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you can listen just like you were listening, in the 80s, doing your homework. You can listen to it and then imagine, what does the video look like? And then when you get out of your car and stop driving or whatever it is, you can actually please watch this amazing music video. So let's let's watch it here. Um, all right, just got to get it queued up. All right, here we go. Dance in a red line.
Get up on your feet and change what you see. We don't need no crowds, no picket signs, just follow me. Get up off your seat and change what you see. You don't need no signs, no marching shoes, just follow me. Kick ball change into the darkness. Don't be afraid what you see. Won't come out until we're righteous. Time to change up the beat. We've been dancing a red line. Anger swelling in the streets. Make our strength and numbers increase. We say yes and we say no. Only way for me to get my freedom. We say when and we say how. Yes, it's time for us to break way clean. We say yes and we say no. Only way for me to get my freedom. We say when and we say how. Yes, it's time for us to break way clean.
All right, well, there's a few more minutes, but I just wanted to give a little trailer there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and just watching it again, there's that initial feeling of, whoa, what is this? What's going on here? I need to pay attention right in the beginning.
So I have to tell you, so about the beginning of it, I had that image in my mind, just like of these images kind of like snapping past. And so I had two editors on the project. And when I sent it to the first editor, he was kind of like I forget what the term is called, but he was basically like he set up the storyline, and then there was like some finishing work that needed to be done. And so when I sent it to him, I sent him the notes, and I said, okay, I want each clip to be zero point 0.1 seconds. And because I had done some work, I'm not a video editor, like I said, but I did do some work in iMovie just to kind of figure out what was needed, right? And I was like, I know this is a lot of content. And so there are, if I remember correctly, about 122 images,
Hmm.
because I did the math, right? I was like, okay, this is this many seconds, and I want it to be zero point 0.1 seconds. So I have to figure out exactly how many images that
Hmm.
is. And I did the math. I think it was 120 seconds, and 120 images. And so I was
Hmm.
going online and trying to get the high res images. But he was like, oh, I think that it's going to be too much because it'll kind of overwhelm people. I said, I wanted to overwhelm people
Mm.
because we've been through a lot this year. And
Mm.
it's not just this year. Like, we've been through a lot this
Yeah.
year
And
and
for
in
those
the
of
course of this
the
time.
people that are just listening to this podcast, they didn't just see those images. What's the story that you're telling?
So I'm telling the story of, well, I'm telling the story of the trauma and the things that we need to change,
Mm-hmm.
the things that have happened, not only in America. See, the thing that I think is important for us to realize is that while I will probably never say the words that like America is the most powerful nation in the world, like I'm not that kind of person. I don't really like superlatives. But I know the effect that America has on the rest of the world. I know that people look to us for certain things. When I went to Toronto years ago, doing a couple of shows up there, I met some people in Atlanta at a music seminar, a music conference, and then I ended up going to do some music events up in Toronto. And this girl who I ended up staying with, who's Jamaican, she said, "Oh yeah, like I'm the first Black radio personality in Toronto." And I said, "That's impossible. It's 2010." And she said, "No, no, no. Like in Toronto, we were very influenced by the civil rights movement in America, but things have definitely not moved as quickly as they have. And people think that Canada is not racist because it's Canada, but the world is racist. So many systems have been built on oppression and built on racism and built on caste systems and all of
Yeah.
that. And so um, the trauma and the things that we've been through, the changes that need to be made so that the effects that America has on the world are more positive, you know. So there's images of the fires that happened in Australia because we're talking about global climate change. You know, we're talking about global warming. We're talking about the other governments that have been affected. Like, oh, if America can have a sycophant in office, then we can put somebody in office just like that, and it's fine. You know, if we can perpetuate images about certain communities not being worth it, certain s whole countries, if we can put those kind, if we can put messages of just ridiculousness out there, then everybody else is like, oh well, I mean, they did it in America, so it's fine. Now there are some countries who are like, y'all are crazy, we are
Mm-hmm.
not doing that here, thank God,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so many people who look at us as thought leaders, as the guidance, as like the okay, this is the I can't think of the word right now, but this is they're the I don't know, the flagpole. We're the ones who kind of make the rules, and then everybody else follows along, and
Sets the
it's not
tone.
okay. And so the images that you see are some of the things, a lot of things that have happened in America. The I think I have some images in there from Sandy Hook. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have some images in there of people who we've lost. I think I have an image of Kobe Bryant with Chadwick Boseman. You know, um, just so much of the loss and the tragedy and the pain, and but then there's some images of some of the good things too, because I don't believe that it's all been bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's been stuff that has happened that's like, gosh, that was hard, I remember that, I don't want to think about that anymore. But that's another reason why I wanted to go very fast, right? Because I wanted the pace of the images to show us like, oh goodness, we did all of these things, it was up and down, it was up and down, and we've as people, as energies, as spirits, we've persisted through it. We've survived it. Some of us have not survived it, but we've sustained it, and our spirits need something better.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I want you to see it, I want you to experience that again, but not really, like, so very very quickly, so you hardly know what you're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
and then move us into the actual message, which is, let's do something about this,
Mm-hmm.
let's change it.
Yeah, it's the experience, like what you're saying. It's it starts out right. There's the music underneath it, so I'm feeling right. The music is what allows me to feel it, and the images are there's a processing in my mind that's happening, and then when you know the dancing human people start enter you and your allies, your people, that energy, I start that's when I got the chills. Is like, okay, let's like you said, now let's move. And as a white person in this country, I felt included, by you having diversity in the video.
It
So
was
I just.
important to me
Mhm.
to not, to not just show Black people, because I feel like we have allies, and I think that um, I believe in community, I believe in us. I believe that yes, the world is effed up in a lot of ways, but I don't believe every single person in the world is effed up. I know that there are people who know that there are things that are wrong with Trump. I know that there are people who do not believe the things he says. I know that there are people who are white and privileged who acknowledge their privilege and are always doing something to try to help their privilege not be the thing that keeps a Black person out of a space that they should be inhabiting. I know that there are allies, and I know the power of having allies. And also I know that racism is a cancer. And so if we're all going to get to the next step, we really do need to come together. And so I think that community is not just Black community. I think that there's something important about having Black communities. I think there's absolutely something important that comes from us gathering as a people. But I also think that there is something very important about all of us gathering and all of us tackling the issues and communicating about the issues, and really not even necessarily always seeing eye to eye, but inhabiting a space that says, yes, there are some things we disagree about, but the thing we really agree about is that we can do better and be better and make this world more livable and sustainable for us all.
Hmm. Yeah, amen. And what that all makes me think about is your upbringing again, actually, and having that strong root of sounded like um, of a family. And I just actually I got I have this book right here. It's called Common Fire because I read it a little bit every day. Leading lives of commitment in a complex world. I recommend it. But it's talking about how do we hold that root like you're talking about? How do we you know keep the fire tended when those images are going by every point 0.1 seconds, and hold that sense of I know who I am, like
Mm-hmm.
you said. I have that Afrocentric identity that's empowering,
It is.
and that's that I don't need to, I don't get punctured or it hurt. I'm sure it hurts, I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine. And you can then turn around and alchemize and transform and create this empowering message. So
Yes.
I'm just curious about leadership, for in your that lineage in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and where you have looked to, and how it's something that you're tending in your own life.
You got these good questions, Lev. You making me think, right? um, I think that I've been blessed. It's funny. I was actually so so not intentionally, but bringing us back just for a second to Dancing a Red Line. In the last minute of the video, there's a dancer, and his name is Andre Zachary. He's an amazing dancer, choreographer. He has a company in New York called Renegade Performance Group, who everybody should check out. But he and I grew up together in Chicago, and we went to elementary school together. So we went to kindergarten together. And he used to dance in the Nutcracker at Erie Crown Theater, which was huge. I mean, when he was 4 and 5 years old, and I'm like, nobody cares you're dancing at Erie Crown. Like they would make announcements at school. But we've known each other for over 30 years, and we also grew up in the same church at Trinity
Mm,
United Church of Christ. And we were just talking the other day. I think it was New Year's Day actually, and we were just saying how grateful we are to have had the experience of being um, black students at the school that we were at. It was McDade Classical School. Um, it was a diverse school, and we were never meant to feel like we were less than someone else or we weren't as smart as someone else. And then we went from there to our respective junior high schools. And we were in church the whole time. And the church I went to, the motto was unashamedly black, unapologetically Christian. you know
mm,
and so the messages that were constantly repeated to us were uplifting, empowering messages.
mm,
And so we grew up with that and carried it with us everywhere we went. And so we're super grateful for that, because again, and it's not just the messages but the leadership that put those messages together and reminded us of ourselves throughout. And so um the fact that he and I have stayed friends for so long is kind of like we want to keep that connection and also be the leaders that can then make the impact on younger people, and on not only younger people but on people who did not have that, right? And so people who didn't necessarily grow up in a community that empowered and uplifted them and said that you as yourself with the name that you have are meaningful, are powerful, are capable of accomplishing anything you set your mind to, and so I don't know that I think of myself so much as a leader. I think that I I think I try not to shirk away from leadership, though it's certainly easier sometimes to say, yeah, okay, I'm here, but I don't need to be the leader. But it's funny because I'm one of the music directors in the chorus, in the Resistance Survival Chorus, and I think sometimes it's, for lack of a better word, funny, because I am a good singer, right? But it's like, to say that is to say something great about yourself, which is Is that okay? Right? Like, is it okay for me to say I'm a great singer and I have a really good ear? Even though that's the truth, like I have a good ear, and that makes it possible for me to help other people stay on key and get the and learn the part correctly so that we can all sing together and be in harmony and create a sound that is impacting people energetically and sonically so that we can put our messages of love out there and our hope for joy and all of those things. And so I think that because of the leadership that we grew up with, we have stepped into these leadership positions even even unconsciously because it was represented to us, and we were always expected to be excellent, but not in an oppressive way, right? So it wasn't like be excellent or else, it
Mm.
wasn't like, well, if you didn't get straight A's, then you're not good enough to be here. You might get rewarded for getting good grades, but also you're really good at dancing or you're really good at drawing, or you know what I mean? And so kind of like consistently um, encouraging the people around us to pursue the things that they love and creating systems that support them to do that. And and so even anything like that, I think is a leadership role, right? Because you are taking a role of leadership in one person's life. And I think
Mhm.
one of the things that I'm always reminding myself of is I might not have 50,000 views on my video, or I might not have 3 million
Yet.
streams on Spotify. But if three people saw it and were inspired, and then went out to inspire other people, and then they went out to inspire other people, it's like every single person that's touched matters, you know. And I think that that's one of those messages. I can't remember the actual wording of it, but it's kind of like if I can touch it's something about like I'm not the ocean or the ocean is me. I'm an ocean in single drop. But it's like we are all literally touching each other at all points, and we all, as a result of that connection, we're all impacting someone.
Mm.
And if you can have a positive impact on someone, then you've made it's a ripple effect, you know. And I think
Mhm.
that that's really the most important thing because
Mhm.
maybe I can't by myself start a revolution, but I can start something.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and you can keep it going.
Yeah.
Mm. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to, look towards what I like to call tying the bundle here. And yeah, just if there's any other thoughts that are crystallizing right now to share with our listeners, who are here listening to these conversations, because just what you just said about the ripple effect, and that we're all tuning in to this intuition that certainly has more and more, left brain um, affirmation. Maybe I'll say it like that, in terms of the connections between racial justice, climate justice, uh, economic justice, justice and love and beauty and creativity, and commitment to protect and steward life for the future generations, for the children, and all the way down the line for all beings. Right, we're starting to see that it's everything you are is in everything you do. Right,
Yes.
so we need to, get ourselves to be as inspired in each moment, because each moment is making a difference, either in one direction or another, like Howard's in, right? You can't be neutral on on a moving train. So here we are in each moment, each breath. So there's my little
Well,
soapbox
you
rant
know
that
what's
you're
so crazy?
inspiring me to, but I want to hear, what's your just kind of, to share with this conversation at the
First,
last part.
let me reiterate how grateful I am to be here with you right now and to have this platform. And I'm so grateful to join you on 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 your podcast, which has been growing over the course of the years, which is just amazing. So congratulations on that. But it's so funny because earlier we were talking and you said, "Oh, I don't know if you want to sing something," and I said, "I don't know, maybe." But we just now you said something about how in each moment we need to inspire ourselves, and we need to be inhaling information that's inspiring to us that can inspire someone else. And I have a song called Moment that I might not sing the whole thing, but I will sing a little bit of it. But what I wanted to say before I go there is exactly what you just said, just in a slightly different way, is the thing that's going to allow us, I think, to make the impact that we have the potential to make as far and wide as we can make it is it starts with us, right? It starts with each of us taking stock and inventory in who we are and what it is that we want to put out to the world, right? But I think even more, I mean, the simplicity of like it starts with us choosing us and loving us and caring for ourselves, right? Because when we can really look in the mirror and like what we see and 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 if we don't like what we see, acknowledge what we see, work on it, change it, right? And then become what we want to be, then even that process opens up so many doors for others to see themselves and just do the same thing. And that's actually what my goal is in my music across the board, but especially on this next project. It's called I Love My Afro Ratchet Soul because that's kind of how I'm like identifying my music genre. And I'm really just talking about kind of like seeing yourself, being yourself, loving yourself,
Hmm.
and then taking that message of love out to the world. But the song is called Moment, and I think that the remix is going to be on this album. But the words simply say, no, I'm not going to waste time. We won't waste time with that. I'll just say, you are more than this moment. Don't let it break you, break you, break you down. Take you, shake you, steal your crown. You are more than this moment.
Hmm.
Come like this, kings are shaped by this moment. And the song just kind of circles around. And
Hmm.
on the song, I'm joined by Stephanie Rooker, who was the
Hmm.
facilitator when we did the Sound and Music Institute program at the Open Center. And it's definitely one of my favorite songs of mine. And yeah, I think that that's it. You know, it's like we might trip and fall and like stumble out of place, but it's okay. Like jump back in, keep moving forward, keep doing the work, and keep growing, and keep inspiring yourself and inspiring others. And just in doing that, then it becomes everything becomes brighter and more flowers bloom. You know.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.